Hello, Ravens fans, and welcome to another season preview. I'm Aaron Schneider, the Sports Information Director at Anderson University, and joining us for our women's lacrosse season previews, head coach Russell Mackey. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good. I wanted to kick things off before we start talking about the rest of the season. Let's talk about the Hanover contest we had to open the season. We had a thriller there in quadruple overtime, got the 9-8 win. Elizabeth Graham had 3 goals, had a stellar performance in that. Madison Leonard showing up in goal for getting the HCLC Defensive Player of the Week, and then a handful of strong performances to complement that as well.
Yeah, that was the pleasing part. Your last statement about the handful of other contributors, because it really, cliche, but it was a team effort. We had 70% of our offense who scored. So hopefully that's shades of things to come, that everybody makes a contribution. And if they do, we can pull off a couple more wins like we did against Hanover.
And then what would you say as far as the execution of your game plan for that?
The execution of the game plan got modified in the first half when we realized that they had kind of a strong caller, kind of buller way in, a fairly sizable young lady that was a prolific scorer. So we realized pretty quickly that we're going to need to change our game plan, at least defensively, and try to shut her down. And that's where one of our new players, Abby Miller, came in on the scene, and she used her basketball and soccer skills to face guard the young lady who had scored 3 goals in the first half of the first half, and she proceeded to be able to shut her down, and the young lady did not score another goal the rest of the game because of Abby's face guarding defense. She was very tenacious.
Yep. And with that, we saw 1 goal in the second half, and then within the overtime periods, we held them off for another 10 minutes there. So 1 goal allowed in about a 40-minute stretch.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. They got themselves a little bit into foul trouble, and we stayed pretty disciplined, which was great. But yeah, I was a little shocked at that myself, given the fact that lacrosse is a game of momentum, and you can score quite a few goals pretty quickly. So holding them to 1 goal was pretty impressive. And this day and age, a score of, I can't even remember, was 8-7 or 9-8. That's actually a fairly low scoring lacrosse game these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So looking ahead for the rest of the year, what would you say your goals / expectations are for this year?
Well, to be honest with you, with such a new team, and you probably have heard that cliche too, we're a new team. We are a new team. I mean, we have some players that have really not even played that much before at all. And so, I can go down the win-loss and say we want to go 500 or this or that, but the reality is, because we're so new and we're still getting to know each other, the bond's very good. But I'd say our expectations is personal growth and team growth. So personal growth, everybody, including the returners, can improve, in particular on their stick skills. And we've seen a lot of that, especially from the new players. And then secondly, overall playing as a team, coming together, because literally more than half the team was new, is another goal. So those are really our expectations. If we can play together as a team, if we continue to grow and improve personally as well, the wins will come.
And I was just gonna ask to follow on. You kind of touched on it a little bit. You have a handful of players who haven't played lacrosse before this year.
Yeah, I almost don't like to admit it.
How many of those are there?
There are 7 or 8.
Yeah, so quite a number of people picking it up for the first time this year and doing pretty well so far.
They did. They took it to heart in the fall and kind of accelerated the learning curve from a stick skill perspective. We pretty much focus on fundamentals there. So it goes back to kind of your question about the game plan. The game plan was for at least half the team was to put their newfound fundamental skills into play. Keep it at that. We are starting to inject some motion into our offensive scheme, so they know where to go and they're not standing still. But that's still coming. So game plan still focus on executing against the fundamentals and a lot of movement now.
Okay, and then what are your team's strengths?
Well, I think again we've come together and we're a pretty tight group. So I'd say unity is probably our biggest strength right now because we have people that are new and the returners, and to meld those together, that's been our strength. But more specifically, in our offense can score points, and our offense consists mostly of the returners. And like I said, 70% of them scored in that first game. So offensively, we can put the ball in the goal if we're thoughtful on our shot selection and we remain patient. Defensively, we have 3 of the 4 low defenders that are newbies, new players, and they've come together as a unit. They have each other's back. They're not that physical yet. Their stick skills, as we've talked about, are still improving. But quite frankly, they play as one, and that's what you got to do defensively in lacrosse. Good communication, have each other's back. And despite some of their, lack of proficiencies at this point with regards to the game itself, the skills, they don't lack in communication with each other and support of each other, and that can go a long way to making a defense successful.
Okay. So looking at our roster for this year, what will you say? Which newcomers do you expect to make an impact for this year?
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd ask that question, and I can point to 1 or 2, but the reality is all the returners are scorers, and we show that again in the Hanover game. We have one that I don't think she scored. She had some knee problems. Greta is getting stronger, and so we throw her into the mix of scoring, and it'll really be the whole complement of our offensive unit can score out there. So Caitlin and Sam and E, obviously with her performance, and Mallory, they're all scorers. We need to throw Greta in that mix, and we'll have a great complement of scorers out there, which is again what you want offensively. So they can go and try to cut the head off of one of our snakes, so to speak, like we did with Hanover. But it's not going to matter because we have a contingency of other players that'll do just fine.
Yeah, no, I said newcomers, but I meant to ask about the returners. But
I'm sorry,
and I heard no, but you covered for both. But
gotcha.
So we're good on that front. So
I will say again, we had, and I hate to do this because we're such a young unit defensively, but Abby Miller did show us some athleticism and the ability to stay with that player and shut her down. So we were pleased with that.
All right. Now we open up at home on Thursday against Concordia Chicago. What are your expectations of them for Thursday?
Well, I've only seen a little bit of their film, and what it appears they play like is to find that open man in the 8-meter pretty quickly. Just that window of opportunity may be short, but they find their player in the 8-meter for a pass and a quick shot. So we'll need to deny that. They don't appear to be a big driving offense. Their transition's pretty good, so we'll have to get back in transition. But in a settle up offense, they don't seem to be drivers. They seem to be cutters and feeding those cutters, and they do that. It looks like they do that pretty well. Again, find them for a quick turnaround or a quick shot. So we're gonna have to keep that from happening.
Okay. And then finally, what does your team need to do this year to be successful?
I think that's easy. We just need to keep on improving. Again, the new players have improved exponentially. Still plenty, obviously, of room to grow there and improve the lacrosse IQ, as we call it. And then, and then the returners, they just need to do what they do. They need to kind of lead out there. And I think with not just new players coming on, but as I said, new players, right? With some returners, you would think there probably could be some frustration or whatever, but as coaches, as teammates, those returners are thrilled to have the new players. So they've come together as a collective team really, really well. And if we can keep that going, again, that cures a lot of ills with regards to skills, just being a really tight team that doesn't have any dissension among themselves and supports each other. So kind of probably not what typical answer, but that's our success. Just being a really tight, supportive team is going to take us places, and we're going to use that to surprise some people as we continue to improve and grow.
All right. Well, I think I've covered the questions I wanted to. Ravens fans, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow along for any more season previews or any other content we might be putting out. Also, be sure to follow along the women's lacrosse team as they take on Concordia Chicago on Thursday. And Coach Mackey, thank you for joining us, and good luck on Thursday.
Thanks, Aaron.